She was pregnant, abandoned, and baking bread just to survive. The night she collapsed in the rain, no one stopped, except him. A ruthless Korean Mafia boss, who had never saved anyone before. But the child she carried wasn't his. And when her past came back, blood would spill. Welcome back to Believe Tales. If you've been here before, you already know, these stories don't just pass time, they stay with you. And if this is your first time here, then you should know this space is different. We tell stories about love, power, betrayal, and those quiet moments in between that change everything, especially when worlds collide. Today's story, it starts with pain. The kind that doesn't shout, just sits quietly in your chest. But before it ends, it will test everything you think you know about love and survival. So stay with me because this one, it goes deeper than you expect. And if stories like this speak to you, you can support the channel by subscribing. Amara always woke before the sun. Not because she wanted to, but because life didn't give her a choice anymore. The small bakery she ran sat at the corner of a quiet Lego street, the kind of place people passed without really noticing. The paint on the walls had started peeling, and the signboard hung slightly tilted like it too was tired. But inside it smelled like hope. Fresh dough, warm bread, and something softer, something that reminded people of home. At least it used to. Now the whispers had replaced the warmth. She's the one. The pregnant one? No husband. Amara heard them. Of course she did. But she never responded. She just kept kneading the dough, pressing her palms into it slowly, like she was trying to push the pain somewhere deeper, somewhere no one could see. Most people wouldn't notice it, but it mattered. Because silence like that, it's not peace. It's survival. Her fiancé had left 3 months ago. No fight. No warning. Just gone. The day he found out she was pregnant, he smiled. That was the strange part. He smiled, held her face, told her everything would be fine. Then the next morning his phone was off. His clothes were gone. And that was the last time she ever heard his voice. At first she waited. Then she worried. Then she understood. And that was the moment everything changed. Because hope can only stretch so far, before it breaks quietly inside you. The landlord didn't wait long. 3 months rent, Amara. I'm not running charity here. His voice was always louder when other people were around. She nodded, gently, like she always did. I'll pay. I just need a little more time. Time. It sounded so small when she said it, but in her world, it meant everything. Her family? They had already made their decision. Her mother stopped answering her calls. Her uncle told her plainly, "You brought shame. Fix it yourself." Even her younger sister, the one who used to braid her hair and laugh too loudly, avoided her now. If you've ever felt that kind of silence from people you love, you understand. So she kept working, day after day, morning into night. Even when her back ached, even when the nausea came in waves, even when her hands trembled from exhaustion, she baked, because stopping meant thinking. And thinking, that was dangerous. That evening the rain started suddenly. Heavy. Unforgiving. The kind of rain that doesn't ask, it just takes over everything. The street emptied quickly. Shops closed. Voices disappeared. But Amara stayed. She wrapped the leftover bread carefully in a small cloth, tying it tight like it mattered more than it did. Because it did. That bread would mean food tomorrow. Or money. Or survival. She stepped into the rain slowly. Her dress clung to her almost immediately, her sandals slipping slightly against the wet ground. Her hand rested instinctively on her belly. A quiet habit. A silent reassurance. "I'm here," she whispered softly. No one heard her. But she said it anyway. The road she took was darker than usual. Streetlights flickered. The wind carried a strange tension, the kind you don't understand, but you feel. And then, headlights. Sure. Blinding. A convoy of black cars, too expensive for this part of Lagos. Too controlled, too quiet. They didn't belong here. Everyone knew that. Amara stepped aside immediately, lowering her gaze. She wasn't stupid. Power like that, you don't look at it directly. You survive around it. But as the cars slowed, something unexpected happened. One of them stopped, right in front of her. The door opened, and the rain seemed to pause, just for a second. A man stepped out, tall, dressed in black like the night had shaped itself around him. His presence didn't feel loud. It felt controlled, dangerously controlled. His name, though she didn't know it yet, was Ji-hoon. A man people feared across cities they would never speak about out loud. A man who didn't stop for anyone. A man who didn't notice people like her. But he noticed her. Not because she was beautiful. Not because she was special. But because she didn't run. Amara stood there, soaked, trembling slightly, her hand still holding that small bundle of bread. And when their eyes met, just for a moment, she didn't look away fast enough. And something shifted. Quietly. Unexpectedly. Dangerously. Ji-hoon tilted his head slightly, studying her like something didn't make sense. People around him always reacted the same way. Fear, panic, submission. But her? There was fear, yes. But there was something else too. Dignity. And that was rare. Why are you outside in this rain? His voice came low, controlled, almost distant. Amara swallowed gently, her fingers tightening around the cloth. I'm going home. Her voice was soft. But it didn't break. Most people wouldn't notice it, but he did. And that was the moment everything truly began. The rain didn't stop. It only softened, like the night itself was listening. Ji-hoon stood there for a moment longer than necessary, his eyes still on her, still trying to understand something that didn't quite make sense. A pregnant woman, alone, in the rain, holding bread like it was the only thing keeping her steady. People like her didn't exist in his world. Or maybe they did. He just never noticed them. Get in, he said quietly. It wasn't a suggestion. Amara blinked, caught off guard. I'm fine, she replied softly. I don't want trouble. And there it was again. That quiet dignity. Not defiance. Not fear either. Just someone trying to stay invisible in a world that kept pulling her into the light. Ji-hoon exhaled slowly, not annoyed, just unfamiliar with this kind of response. Most people obeyed instantly. But her? She chose her words carefully, like she had learned the cost of saying too much. If you stay here, you'll collapse, he said. No emotion. Just fact. And maybe it was the exhaustion. Or the cold seeping too deep into her bones. Or the way her legs suddenly felt heavier than they should. But Amara didn't argue again. She stepped forward, slowly, carefully, and got into the car. The door closed behind her, and just like that, the world outside disappeared. Silence. Warmth. Soft leather seats that felt too expensive for someone like her to even touch. She held the small bundle of bread tighter in her lap, unsure where to place it, unsure where to place herself. Ji-hoon entered from the other side. The car moved almost immediately. No wasted time. No unnecessary words. Just quiet efficiency. Amara kept her eyes forward. Felt safer that way. But she could feel his presence beside her, calm, unreadable, like a storm that had learned how to stay still. Where do you live? He asked. She hesitated. Not because she didn't want to answer, but because something inside her didn't trust how easily this moment had come. Ajagunal, near the old market. Pause. Small. But noticeable. Ji-hoon nodded once. To his driver he said something briefly in Korean, low and controlled. The car shifted direction. Amara glanced at him, just for a second. The sharp lines of his face, the stillness in his posture, the kind of quiet that didn't come from peace, but from control. This was not a man who lived simple. This was a man who decided things, and they happened. If you've ever been around power like that, you understand how it feels. It's not loud. It doesn't need to be. The silence stretched, but it wasn't uncomfortable, just unfamiliar. Then suddenly, a sharp inhale. Amara's hand pressed against her stomach. Her body tensed. Ji-hoon turned immediately. What is it? It's nothing, she whispered, but her voice betrayed her. Another wave hit. Stronger this time. Her face tightened. And that was the moment everything shifted again. Because for the first time, he looked at her, not as curiosity, but as something fragile. Something that could break. Stop the car. The command came instantly. No hesitation. The vehicle halted under a dim street light. Rain still tapping softly on the roof. Ji-hoon stepped out first, then opened her door himself. Not his driver. Not his guard. Him. Amara tried to stand, but her knees gave slightly. And before she could fall, his hand caught her. Firm. Steady. Warm. For a brief second, she froze. Because no one had held her like that in months. Not with care. Not without judgment. I'm okay, she said quickly, pulling back just a little. Old habits. Survival habits. Ji-hoon didn't respond immediately. He was watching her again, but this time, differently. Closer. more aware. You haven't eaten, he said. It wasn't a question. Amara looked away. And that silence? That was her answer. Most people wouldn't notice that kind of detail. But he did. And it stayed with him. Minutes later they arrived. But not at Ajigunal. The car slowed in front of a large building, quiet, secured, far removed from the chaos of the streets she knew. Amara's brows furrowed slightly. This isn't. You need rest, Jihoon interrupted. Simple. Final. I can't stay here, she said quickly. I have work, my shop. You'll go back, he replied. Tomorrow. Pause. Then softer. If you can stand. And something about that. Not forceful. Not cruel. Just certain. It made her stop resisting. Inside everything felt too clean. Too quiet. Too far from her reality. She stood near the entrance, unsure if she should move, unsure if she belonged in a place like this even for a moment. Jihoon watched her, and for the first time in years, he felt something unfamiliar settle in his chest. Not control. Not anger. Not power. Something else. Something quieter. Stay tonight, he said. And then, almost like an afterthought, you're safe here. Safe. It had been a long time since that word meant anything to her. Amara nodded slowly. Not because she trusted him completely, but because she was too tired to keep fighting everything at once. And as she disappeared down the hallway, guided by one of the staff, Jihoon remained standing there. Still, thoughtful. Unmoved, yet somehow, not the same. Because he knew something now. Something dangerous. She wasn't just a passing moment. She wasn't just another face in the rain. She was becoming a weakness. And in his world, weakness didn't stay untouched for long. By morning, the rain was gone. But nothing felt washed away. Some storms don't leave quietly like that. They stay, in small, invisible ways. Amara woke slowly. The room was unfamiliar, too soft, too clean, too still. For a moment she didn't move. She just lay there, one hand resting on her belly, feeling the quiet. No shouting landlord. No whispers through thin walls. No judgment waiting outside her door. Just silence. And for the first time in a long time, it didn't feel heavy. But peace like that? Rarely lasts. Across the building, Jihoon stood by the glass window of his office, overlooking the city. Lagos stretched wide beneath him, alive, restless, unpredictable. His phone buzzed once. Then again. He ignored the first call. Answered the second. Sir, there's a situation. His expression didn't change. There's always a situation. Pause. Then. It's about the woman. And just like that, the air shifted. What about her? They found her. Silence. Not confusion. Not surprise. Just calculation. Who? Jihoon asked quietly. But deep down, he already knew. The man who got her pregnant. And that was the moment the past stopped being a memory and became a threat. Amara was sitting at the edge of the bed when the knock came. Soft. Careful. Come in, she said. The door opened slowly, and Jihoon stepped inside. But something about him had changed. Still controlled. But colder now. More distant. And she noticed. Of course she did. People who have been hurt before. They notice everything. Did I do something wrong? She asked quietly. The question came out before she could stop it. Jihoon paused. Just for a second. Then shook his head. No. But it didn't feel like the full answer. And she knew it. Someone is looking for you, he said. Straight to the point. No soft landing. Amara's fingers tightened slightly over her dress. Who? Even though her heart had already started racing. Because sometimes, your body recognizes danger before your mind does. He says he's your fiancé. The room went still. Too still. Amara let out a small breath, but it wasn't relief. It was something else. Something closer to dread. He's not, she whispered, then corrected herself. He was. And that small correction? It carried more weight than anything else. Jihoon watched her carefully. Not just her words, but the way her shoulders dropped slightly. The way her eyes lost something, just for a moment. If you've ever had someone come back, after breaking you, you understand that feeling. It's not love. It's not even anger. It's confusion. What does he want? She asked. Jihoon didn't respond immediately. And that silence? It said enough. He's asking for protection. Amara blinked. Protection. Yes. Jihoon's voice hardened slightly. He's in trouble. A bitter smile touched her lips, soft, almost invisible. Of course he is. And that was the moment something inside her shifted. Not weakness, not pain, but clarity. He left when I needed him, she said quietly. He doesn't get to come back now that he needs something. Jihoon held her gaze, and for the first time, there was no doubt in his expression. Then he won't get it. Simple, final, dangerous. But the story didn't end there, because the truth was uglier than either of them expected. That evening the man was brought in, dragged not welcomed. His clothes were expensive now, his wristwatch gleaming under the lights. But fear? Fear had a way of stripping everything else away. Amara, he called out the moment he saw her. Like her name still belonged to him. Like he hadn't disappeared without a word. She didn't move, didn't respond, just watched. I made a mistake, he said quickly. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. His voice cracked at the right places, almost convincing. But not enough, not anymore. What do you want? Amara asked. Come, steady. They're after me, he said. I owe money, dangerous people. I thought if I came here. He stopped, because now he understood where he was, who he was standing in front of. Jihoon. And that was when the real fear settled in. You used her, Jihoon said quietly. No anger, no raised voice, just truth. The man shook his head quickly. No, I loved her. Love doesn't disappear overnight, Jihoon replied. Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. Then came the truth, the one thing no one expected. They're not just after me, the man whispered. They're after her too. Amara's breath caught. What? They know about the baby, he continued. They think it's connected to something bigger. I didn't mean for this to happen. And just like that, everything changed again. Because now, this wasn't just about the past, it was about survival. Jihoon's expression darkened slightly. Not fear, never fear, but something close to decision. He stepped forward, slow, controlled. And then, he spoke. She stays with me. The room froze. Amara turned to him, her eyes searching his face, trying to understand what he meant. Not just the words, but the weight behind them. Jihoon looked at her, fully this time. No distance, no hesitation. From now on, no one touches you. Pause. Then softer. Or the child. And that was the moment everything settled into place. Not perfectly, not safely, but clearly. Because love. Sometimes it doesn't arrive gently. Sometimes it arrives in the middle of danger and dares you to survive it. Sometimes people don't come into your life to stay the way you expect. Some come to break you. Some come to test you. And a rare few come when you've already given up and still choose to stand beside you. Not because it's easy, but because it means something. If this story reminded you of someone or something you've been through, hold on to that feeling. It matters more than you think. And if you stayed with me till this moment, then you felt it too. This wasn't just a story. It was something deeper. And trust me, this isn't where it ends. There's more waiting, more truth, more consequences that haven't unfolded yet. So subscribe, so you don't miss what's coming next. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? I want to see how far these stories are reaching, and I'll be right there reading every single one. Because someone out there is feeling exactly what you're feeling right now. And you're not alone.
Just like he said, this story is just beginning. Watch out for the part 2, and I'll be here with you guys very soon.